And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Thursday, April 3rd. I am Josh Engleman here to break down a 6-game NBA slate. We've got a game locking at 7, 4 more games locking at 7:30, and then a late night hammer at 10 o'clock. So a little gross in terms of structure. But we're here. We got a lot to talk about. Should still be a fun slate coming off of yesterday. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter, at Josh Engleman. Biggest scorer of the slate yesterday. 68.25 fantasy points from Anthony Davis in 29 minutes and 54 seconds. 34 points, 15 boards, 6 stocks. Russ with the big day. The other 50-point scorers, Russell Westbrook, Chet Holmgren, SGA, DeMar DeRozan, Tyler Hero, Donovan Mitchell, Domantas Sabonis, Onyeka Okongwu. Very normal names. And Jalen Pickett, 52 fantasy points, triple-double, 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. I had a decent day. We can pull it up here. Thought I was going to have something a little bit better than I did. Ended up 27% in the mini-max that I entered. If we look at just guys that played 150 lineups, 63% ROI ended up being 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That would be 12th highest of anybody in the mini-max pre-lock. 89% of Westbrook, great. 75% of Pickett, great. 70% of DeAndre Jordan, great. Julian Champagnie was fine. Zeke Naji was bad. That was the only stand that I had that was not ideal. But SGA was good. Mamu was fine. Just both Champagnies actually were slightly underwhelming for what we ended up getting out of them. But I'm happy. You know, I had like a top 30 individual lineup. Happy to see that. Post-contest sims are fun, man. It's always good to go back and look and see what you got going on. But now we're here to break it all down. I'm going to take our time. Some spots, we got nothing we could even do. But we'll break it down as much as we can. So let's hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Hope you guys took advantage of the Stew promotion yesterday. Thank you to you guys that ended up signing up, getting 2 free weeks of the Portfolio EV tool. We got a bunch of bets out there right now that we're going to be able to talk about as we break down this slate. So let's get into it, shall we? First game up, Orlando Magic. 14-point favorites in Washington, 215 total. Magic, obviously, interesting spot. Orlando gets the benefit of facing the Wizards, a team that is incredible for DFS purposes. However, this is the lowest total on today's slate. It is tied for the lowest pace. But we will be getting to some of Orlando, and it's the same Orlando we always get to. There's 3 guys that you could roster from the Magic, maybe 3.5, and we could have that discussion. But you're either getting Franz, you're getting Paolo, or you're getting some sort of minimal amount of Wendell Carter Jr. Right now, we have Franz ranked 12th and Paolo ranked 24th. We have Franz more optimal. We have them both around 20% owned. And these things will move around throughout the day. Obviously, don't get too married to the order of operations here. But yeah, you get Franz with an MPE, you get Paolo with the better rates, you get a great matchup against the Wizards. But yeah, 20% of Franz, 20% of Paolo. Is anybody surprised to see that? Because I'm not. Wendell Carter Jr. always reasonable. You know, if he plays like 28 or 29 minutes, 5,100 is fine. Same story on FanDuel. 30% ownership to Franz, 20 to Paolo, a little bit more to Wendell Carter Jr. Nobody else really getting any love for Orlando. I think you can roster Cole Anthony on a day like today. With a 6-game slate, with a matchup against the Wizards, I assume that like he'll just fall into 28 minutes at some point in time. I don't think they want to continue to play Corey Joseph. So I don't mind Cole Anthony as a GPP pivot on the off chance that he gets more playing time. But it's the same story for Orlando. Nobody wants to roster Corey Joseph or Caleb Houston or Anthony Black or KCP. These guys are terrible per minute options. So like, just focus on the good dudes from Orlando. I know it sounds overly simplistic, but it's just kind of how it works here. Nobody else ever looks good for this Magic team when everybody is in. Do we have any Orlando bets? We do. Corey Joseph under 9.5 points plus assists on Onyx odds. Franz. Oh, that's an interesting Franz play. Wait, did that go away? Yeah, we lost it. Oh, Wendell Carter Jr. under 7.5 rebounds on Novig. That's a shame we lost that Franz play. That one actually looked pretty good. But we do have 2 Orlando plays out there right now. Wendell Carter Jr. on Novig if you're looking for it. Let's go to Washington because they're a little different. Now, the key takeaway for the Wizards, the main thing that we need to pay attention to here, we don't have an injury report. So, like yesterday, for example, Jalen Martin and somebody else was inactive yesterday. We don't know who's going to be active or inactive. You know, we can assume some guys are in or out, but we don't know for sure who is going to be available for the Wizards. We do know that they have a terrible matchup against the Orlando Magic. Oh, thank you, Steven. Colby Jones as well. So we don't know their status. We're going to have some ownership to Washington because it's a 6-game slate. So we're seeing like 10% to Thor and Sar and AJ Johnson and Bub Carrington. Vukcevic off the bench, again, continues to look like a really interesting value option. But we just don't know who's available for Washington. So I'm not going to spend much time here. We kind of need to figure this one out. Like, if Jay's active, then these Washington guys will look a lot worse. But if somebody else is inactive, maybe Martin and Jones are active today and Thor and Gill are inactive. We're going to like Martin and Jones because of their price, the fact that they're better per minute guys, the position is better. But I there's nothing I can say right now for Washington because we just don't know anything. Like Bub Carrington for 5,300 on FanDuel might look really good if we continue to give him 32 minutes. But we just don't know right now. So I don't want to talk about Washington because I'm not entirely sure. Like, they're probably going to have like 9 active bodies. We just don't know who they are. Oh, weird. I am dropping connection. Well, at least it's continuing to record my audio. I'm aware of what's happening, guys. My stream won't kick back up. I'm stuck in like 800 kill. Am I on 56K right now? Odd. Very odd. I'll tell you what, man. For the amount of money that I spend on internet, it fails a lot. Like, I have the best that I can buy. I couldn't get anything better if I wanted to at this house without going commercial. I'd spend anything. It doesn't seem to matter. But anyway, that's the Wizards. We got to pay attention to it. We'll certainly break it down more on Live Before Lock tonight. We do have Justin Champagnie under 8.5 points as the #1 OddsShopper play, but I would probably be a little nervous there. Bub Carrington under 4.5 rebounds, I'd be fine with taking. 6 OddsShopper rating, 4% EV. Justin Champagnie under 7.5 rebounds on BetMGM, 5 OddsShopper rating, 3% EV. There's a couple decent Washington bets out there right now. I like the Bub Carrington on BetMGM. I like the Justin Champagnie on BetMGM. Get T1. What is this, 1998? I'm not getting a T1 line. I'm not a high school. I have the best internet I can possibly get. Highest package at Spectrum. I don't have any other choice. I'd like to. Trust me. Trust me. All right, Minnesota Timberwolves. 13-point favorites in Brooklyn, 216 total. So the first two games that we're talking about today, Orlando, Washington, Minnesota, Brooklyn, they're the two lowest totals by 10 points, and they're the lowest pace matchups on today's slate by 3 or 4 possessions. And you can see right away, there's absolutely nothing here for Minnesota. The highest owned Wolf is 5% to Rudy Gobert. The highest optimal, 5% to Rudy Gobert. These guys just aren't interesting when they're at full strength. And they're at full strength. FanDuel's the same. Highest optimal rate, McDaniels at 8%. Highest ownership, McDaniels at 11%. Nobody made the top 30. Trevor, I'm 40. I talked about this on playback last night. Probably good to talk about it again here. We talk a lot about like guys that should be played. But, you know, especially on a day like today, if you're not in the top 30, like, you're just not a guy that you should have 20% of. So many people want to try to grab these guys as, like, there's nothing, you're not going to save yourself by getting a 5% guy right at 20% randomly. And that's what we have here. Like, are Minnesota guys fine plays ignoring the rest of the slate? Yeah, like, can Anthony Edwards score 59 fantasy points today? Yeah, we think he does it 14% of the time. But relative to the rest of the slate, he's only 4% optimal. Same for Gobert. 18% chance at 44, but he's 5% optimal. If these guys aren't ranking that high, I need everybody to, like, start thinking about this in a slightly different way. It's important too. Like, when you guys see someone, like, let's say you showed up and you were like, man, I love Anthony Edwards against Brooklyn today. I want to have 50%. He's an amazing play. If you see him be 4% optimal, 4% owned, your first thought shouldn't be, well, that data's wrong. It should be, well, why am I wrong? And, you know, maybe you think that the projection should be 45 points instead of 43.8. And that makes him like an 8% optimal guy, not a 4. But you're never going to have these stands on these type of guys. You're just going to make your lineups worse. But there's nothing to like from Minnesota. Either site. No one ranks in the top 30. I mean, McDaniels barely ranks in the top 40 on FanDuel. Now, for Minnesota bets-wise, not a single Minnesota player has an available OddsShopper play right now. Thank you, Trevor, I guess. Appreciate it. Now, Brooklyn, they tend to... Did I not give Nick Claxton minutes? Ugh. Do I want to try to fix this right now? I don't. Oh, I should. It's making Drew Timmy look too good. Do I need to I should rerun this while we're on the show, shouldn't I? I'm going to have to do that. So when a little look behind the hood, since it's only a 6-game slate, we have plenty of time. When I load projections in the morning, I do the minutes projections to start the day. because I'm up and I do this show and it's easier. But in our name mapping, I have Nick Claxton slightly different than the naming on the back end. So he's a guy that I normally have to manually type in, and I clearly didn't do that. And that explains why Drew Timme is looking as good as he does. And, well, not that Drew Timme's not going to look okay, but I have Brooklyn projected for 28 minutes less than they should have. That's going to make everybody look different. Drew Timme going from 26 fantasy points down to, let's see. Oh, down to 20.9. Yeah, I'm going to have to rerun contenders as well. All right, let's save that. I'll push projections. I'll re-download them. I'll rerun a sim. I'll rerun ownership. We'll get all of this done. We got plenty of time today. And we can talk through Brooklyn while we do this. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously massive dogs here against Minnesota. The way that these guys are ranked right now is going to change. Everybody is basically getting an extra 28 minutes of playing time without having it accounted to anybody. So all of this is going to look a little bit worse as we move forward. But, you know, no Cam Johnson, no Day'Ron Sharpe. We are going to have some interest in D'Angelo Russell and Keon Johnson, and we will have a little bit of interest in Drew Timme. Projections are updated on the site. So if you are on Stokastic right now, you guys can go and see the updated projections. I'm going to run ownership now and get that loaded. That one's a little bit more problematic for me while I'm live, but we'll be okay. I'm good at this stuff. So give me 1 second to run this ownership. We'll be able to get this run, and then we can rerun a sim and see where we stand. Okay. So ownership is running in the background for me right now. We could try to touch on Brooklyn, at least a little bit. Like I said, no Noah Clowney, no Cam Johnson, no Day'Ron Sharpe, no Zaire Williams. Q-tag Jalen Wilson. So we're going to have something here. The only real problem with Brooklyn is that they got a lot of guys that suck. Your Dariq Whiteheads, your Max Lewises, Tosan Woman, Reese Beekman, Tyson Etienne. Like, they got a lot of slop. So value might be thin because they can spread these guys out so much, but 6,600 for D'Angelo Russell is going to look okay, even in a bad matchup. 5,300 for Keon Johnson is going to look okay in a bad matchup. Even Drew Timme at like 21 fantasy points, he'll be a 5x guy and a 5% owned dude. But I don't think we're going to have a ton coming here from Brooklyn. I do know this much. What we see on the screen is not going to be what we actually end up with here as I rerun all of this stuff. So I can grab the projection side of this one first. Boom bust should be updated in, I don't know, about a minute or two. But I can grab the projections files to start. I'm very tired of Brooklyn. A weird question, because I don't really know how you guys feel about it. Are you guys excited for the playoffs? This is about the most excited I've been for the playoffs in a very long time. Conference finals will be amazing, but like the West playoffs, it's so good. Basketball's in such a great place. I don't care what anybody says. Says, yeah, the West is loaded. It is loaded, man. It's going to be a good time. All right, ownership is processing right now. We should be dangerously close to getting that up on the site. Once it's up on the site, it'll take a minute or two to refresh boom bust, and then we could start running sims. All right, ownership is updating, and ownership is complete. All righty. So brief pause to get all of our stuff updated. We'll get this locked and loaded in a second. Get all the projections refreshed. Then we can get back into talking about Brooklyn. D'Angelo Russell revenge game? Yeah. I don't think he cares about anything, unfortunately. But he's got $100 million to sit on, so that's fun. All right. Boom Bust is done. Updated, refreshed. Is Nick Claxton in it? Nick Claxton is in it. So we can export those now. Now we have real info. Much better. All right, you guys can watch it on the screen. All of a sudden, Nick Claxton just populates. Nope. No, it doesn't. All of a sudden, Nick Claxton does not populate. Did I not update the Boom Bust tool? Why is Nick Claxton's boom rate not populating? I projected him now. Is Drew Timme still broken? Maybe I have to wait that boom bust out a little bit longer. All right, I'm going to run a new contest so I can get my sim results in. I have no idea why Nick Claxton's not populating here. So bizarre. Yeah, playing Brooklyn will do that to you from time to time. Ah, there we go. 33 seconds ago, we got the update. Now I could rerun. Knew we were going to get there. There we go. Now Nick Claxton should show up. Nope, still didn't. Still didn't. Wait, that doesn't make any sense because he is in the boom bust tool now. I'm looking at it. He's 8% owned. Nino, we have plenty of tutorial content on our YouTube channel. Whatever you're looking to do, whether it's use our sims or use our data, we also have a premium Discord where you could pop in and ask, any questions that you may have in order to try and get a little bit better. But we have what you're looking for, brother. Come on in, Nino. You see the Stokastic logos at the top of the contests? Come on in. Oh, I know what's going on here. I figured it out. Now we got it. All right. So now that this is updated, you can see Brooklyn does not look nearly as good as we expected them to look. No ownership coming into Brooklyn as we expected. This is not a team that you want to get to against Minnesota. I mean, we're getting 10% optimal to Claxton, 7% ownership, 9% ownership to Keon Johnson. Nobody got to double digits. Basically the same story on FanDuel, although I would say that D'Angelo Russell and Claxton look a hair better. You get Russell to 24th. You get Claxton to 30th. It's okay. It's okay. But, why prioritize Brooklyn in a matchup here? I just don't see it. Do you guys like anything from Brooklyn? Otherwise, we're going to be able to keep it moving. No Brooklyn bets on OddsShopper right now, unfortunately, so we can't touch on anything there. Just have to wait till this sim finishes so we can see what we have for Brooklyn. Just waiting on sim results. I'm not going to have Brooklyn, so let's keep it moving. Let's go to Memphis. Memphis Grizzlies, 4.5-point favorites in Miami, and we have a 228 total here. Memphis is going to be without Brandon Clark and Vince Williams for today. And they have been kind of consolidating their rotation a bit as of late under their brand new coaching staff, since they didn't care too much for Taylor Jenkins. All right, I've got my updated exposures. New sim is pasted. So the highest owned guy on Memphis is also our most optimal. And that's 17% optimal, $4,500 center, Zach Edey. Played bigger minutes last time out. We only have him in for 23.5 right now. Ranks 14th, 17% optimal, 23% owned in 18% of my lineups. I think Zach Edey looks like your best Grizzly. And then Jalen Wells and Aldama both got north of 10% optimal, both slightly north of 10% owned. They rank 27th and 28th. Very reasonable lineup filler. Unfortunately for us, though, Memphis is sort of like the opposite of Orlando, where when you look at Orlando, it's Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, you don't get to the scraps. For Memphis, you don't get to Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, or Triple J, and you do get to the scraps. Morant, 2% optimal, Bane, 1% optimal, Triple J, 2% optimal. Those guys don't look great. It's the other things for Memphis that we're interested in. Now, FanDuel, they look even worse. Edey's more expensive, sub 5% optimal. Morant looks a little bit better at 8,700, but still ranks outside the top 40. Only Santi Aldama ranks in the top 30 for Memphis. 5,700 power forward center eligible, 11% optimal, 11% owned. It's the ancillary pieces for Memphis that we're going to pay attention to more so than the main guys. I don't like that, but it's where we stand for today's slate. In terms of Memphis bets, we do have Ja under 1.5 threes. That's a 4 OddsShopper rating, 4% EV on BetMGM, plus 150. Not a great shooter either, so that's a bet I would really enjoy taking. Rarely worried about Ja shooting. Yeah, Ja's been shooting them finger guns off too. But yeah, Memphis, they have some pieces. So does Miami. They're not fun, though. We have two guys in the top 10 in Kyle Anderson and Pelle Larsson. The Kyle Anderson one, I know nobody's going to be pumped about, but we probably need to at least have a little bit of a conversation about it. So Kyle Anderson has re-entered the rotation. He has played legitimate minutes in the last 5 games. 24, 24, 20, 18, and 20. We have him in for 22.5 minutes. And at 22.5 minutes against Memphis, 3,600 power forward eligible, he's 15% owned. He's 30% optimal. He's one of the best value plays you're going to find. Does he scare me? Yeah. But 6-game slate, trying to find value plays so that you can get to Giannis and Luka and LeBron or Steph. I think we start using Kyle Anderson. But, you know, I've got 20% of Pelle Larsson at 4,400. He's played 30 minutes on the dot in 3 straight games. He's pretty interesting to me. Bam's fine at 8,800 if you want to get 10%. Tyler Hero's fine for 10 to 15% at 9K. I like a lot more of Miami than I really want to, but I think Kyle Anderson's the best option. He's not as interesting on FanDuel, where he's 4,300. This is a spot where you want to get to Tyler Hero. 30+% optimal, ranks 3rd, 25% owned. Pelle Larsson, 35% optimal, ranks 5th, not getting nearly as much ownership as he should. Bam's 10% owned, top 20. Ware is 10% owned, top 20. Miami looks really, really, really good. 3 guys in the top 10 on FanDuel, 2 more in the top 20. On the DraftKings side, you're getting 2 guys in the top 10, Hero in the top 20, Bam in the top 30. they're consolidating their rotation. I mean, when they don't have any, like when Davion Mitchell is in, they're basically playing 8 guys. Like, they played yesterday. Burks got 19 minutes. Slow-Mo got 24. Highsmith got 26. Hero, Mitchell, Bam, Larson, and Ware all got 30. And then they closed with 2 generic minutes. Miami's a bit of a priority today. Like right now, they're tied for the 3rd best optimal. They're near the top of Boom. These guys should be more owned than they are. Miami bets. We have Davion Mitchell under 10.5 points. 3% historical ROI. 6 OddsShopper rating. 3.5% EV. We're putting together a really nice BetMGM card so far today. We also have Kel'el Ware under 11.5 points. 2 OddsShopper rating. 2.6% EV on Fanatics. So 2 different Miami plays that you guys can get right now. Putting together a pretty decent betting card. And we're halfway through. I'm going to touch on this very quickly. If you want MLB DFS today, you can get it for $1. It's only going to exist for today for $1. Tomorrow, you will re-up for whichever package you sign up for. The promo code is CYCLE. Weekly package, monthly package, core or max, whichever you pick. You get it for $1 just for today. Projections, ownership, Sims, Discord, whatever you're looking for on the baseball side, you can get it for $1. One day only, 24 hours of MLB DFS package for $1. It'll re-up tomorrow for whichever package you sign up for. Link in the description. Let's go to Milwaukee. The Bucks are 12-point favorites in Philadelphia, 225 total. And we have our number 1 play of the day. 12,100, power forward, center eligible. Give me Giannis. 60% optimal, 60% owned, 75% of my lineups. The clear number 1 play. I know people are probably sick of it, but he looks better than everybody else. I think he pretty easily looks better than Luka. I think he very easily looks better than LeBron or Paolo or Ant. It's Giannis. It's all Giannis. No Dame, no Portis. Matchup against the Sixers. He's the primary pay-up option. You shouldn't be surprised by that. I think 20% ownership to Ryan Rollins makes a lot of sense. He's getting about 27 minutes, 4,700, 15% optimal, 15% owned, ranks in the top 30. And then I think you can fill out your lineups with Taurean Prince, Kuzma, Lopez, AJ Green, KPJ. They're all 5 to 10 percenters. Milwaukee looks really good today. Keep an eye on AJ Green. He's questionable. He has missed the previous 2 games. But in or out, it's all Giannis. It's all Giannis. And a little bit of Ryan Rollins. Same for the FanDuel side. 12-3 for Giannis on FanDuel. 50% optimal, 50% owned, ranks first. He's the dude. And then, you're getting 10 to 15% ownership on Rollins, Prince, Kuzma, Lopez, and Gary Trent. Across the board. Lots of good lineup filler from Milwaukee and the best possible pay up that you can get to in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Crispy, what's going on, brother? It's just Giannis. All things Giannis. We don't have any Milwaukee bets out there right now. Not a single Milwaukee representative in OddsShopper. That's okay. I don't need to bet on Milwaukee. I'll have all of the Giannis Antetokounmpo. Looks so damn good. So good. That's not to say these other guys don't look good. I'm a little over the field on Luka. I'm over the field on LeBron. Like, I like those other pay-ups, but none of them are as cost-effective as Giannis is. Now, Philly, God, I'm tired of this team, too. So the Sixers, No Andre Drummond, no Kyle Lowry, no Maxey, no Oubre. Q tag on Yabusele. So only one guy is getting any sort of real ownership. Right now, that's Lonnie Walker, 4,700. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. Walker ended up playing 33 and 36 minutes over their last two games. We only have him in for 29 here. Looks like an awesome value, great positional flexibility. He's more than 2xing the field right now. I think Lonnie Walker is your best sixer. Jared Butler looks okay off the bench. 10% owned, a little over 10% optimal. But we need to find out who's active for Philly. Jeff Doughton has been inactive recently. Jalen Hood-Schifino was inactive in their last game. Marcus Bagley's 10-day contract has expired. So we need to find out who Philly's going to sign to their next 10-day and who's going to be inactive. Maybe Doughton's active and Schifino's active and they sit Reese and somebody else. So there's going to be something that moves around for Philly. We just don't know what it is yet. But I think the guy that we're paying attention to most here is going to end up being Lonnie Walker, assuming he starts. Sort of the same scenario on FanDuel. Lonnie Walker looks good at 5K, small forward, top 10. Jared Butler and Ricky Council rank 11th and 16th. They're both around 20% owned. But again, we need to find out who's available for Philly. They're going to have a couple 10 to 15 percenters. Right now, we just don't know who they're going to be specifically. We don't need the Kyle Lowry news. He's already out. We already have it. But that's Philly. No Philly bets other than one I would really like to get to. Under 22.5 points for Quentin Grimes on ESPN Bet. 9 OddsShopper rating, 5.7% EV. That's the second best bet we've had so far today. So take the under on Quentin Grimes points and then tag Spags when you do it. 2 games left to go. Portland Trail Blazers taking on the Toronto Raptors. Blazers are 3-point favorites in Toronto. No Scoot Henderson. Once again, Jeremy Grant is doubtful. And then Anthony Simons is questionable. We are getting quite a bit of ownership to Portland because of the way they've been running their rotations. We have 4 guys ranked from 7th to 19th. Denny Avdija is 30% owned, 25% optimal. Looks great. Simons, if he's in, 25% owned, 25% optimal. Looks great. Shaden Sharp and Donovan Clingan are both 15-ish% owned. They're 15 to 20% optimal. They both look great. Tumani Kamara, very reasonable 10% option if you want to go that way. Delano Banton, if Simons ends up out, goes from largely unowned to very, very owned. But, I mean, I've got 25% of Simons, 15 of Sharp, 15 of Avdija, 30 of Clingan. I even got 5 of Kamara and a couple shares of Banton. Portland side looks great. These guys are playing massive minutes. They're consolidating their rotation. They've got bodies out. The prices haven't totally rebounded yet. And they're in a really nice matchup against Toronto. But if you get Simons out, then you just replace his ownership with Banton. And then you like Sharp more and Avdija more. But Portland's a priority team today. As of right now, they're the 3rd most owned team. They're the third highest optimal. One of the top boom teams. It's a lot of Portland. It's the same story on FanDuel. Clingan ranks 10th. Simons ranks 12th. Kamara 14th. Avdija 15th. Shaden Sharp 25th. That's 5 guys in the top 25. 30% owned, 15% owned, 25, 25, 25. Lots and lots of ownership going to Portland. Who's your favorite Blazer today? Simons, Sharp, Avdija, or Clingan? Let's get the poll going. Favorite Blazer. Simons, Sharp, Avdija, Clingan. We got the poll out. Who is your favorite Blazer? Avdia pulling the most ownership. Simon's most cost-effective. Interesting poll. Avdia running away with it so far. We might not even need more votes. You guys are very much preferring Denny Avdia here, which doesn't surprise me. You guys tend to vote on raw points more than actual value. Oh, Anthony, thank you. Sixers signed Colin Castleton. Good to know. Appreciate that. I hadn't seen it, Anthony. Thank you for that. All right. Answer to the poll is Denny Avdia. Priority play from Portland. Donovan Clingan, under 9.5 rebounds, 4 OddsShopper rating, 3.5% EV on Novig. Shaden Sharp, under 21.5 points, 3 OddsShopper rating, 3% EV on Fanatics. So 2 different Portland plays right now. We go to Toronto, the former home of Colin Castleton. Lots of ownership coming into Toronto, unsurprisingly. Scotty Barnes, questionable. Jakob Poeltl out. Emmanuel Quickley out. We have Jamal Shed, ranked 3rd. 30% optimal, 30% owned. 4,500. Should be starting at the point. We have Jonathan Mobo, ranked 5th. 30% optimal, 25% owned. 4K power forward center. They're both in 30% of my lineups. We've got 30% ownership coming into Jacoby Walter. Now, I think he's a little over-owned at 4,200. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's just not a very good per-minute guy. But he's in 18% of my lineup. Orlando Robinson and Jamison Battle are both 15% owned. I have 15% of both. They're ranked 21st and 24th. And you could probably get a couple shares of RJ Barrett if you want to. But this is a game we are going to be oddly interested in. And I don't think we want to be. But right now, Toronto is your most owned team on DraftKings. They're the most optimal team. And they have the highest boom. So Shed, Walter, Mobo, Robinson, Battle. This is your most owned team today. They're the most popular team. FanDuel, not the same story. Jamal Shed is $1,200 more expensive, not nearly as owned. Jacoby Walter is $600 more expensive. Still getting ownership, but not as good of a play. RJ Barrett is just not playing enough minutes to like truly matter. Mobo, $900 more expensive on FanDuel than DraftKings, not getting the same ownership. Orlando Robinson, $1,000 more expensive. Jamison Battle, $400 more expensive. The takeaway for Toronto is play more of them on DraftKings than you do on FanDuel. No Toronto bets on OddsShopper, though, unfortunately. So now, we've made it through 5 games. All 5 of those games lock at either 7 or 7:30. This is the late night hammer. The Golden State Warriors, 2-point underdogs in LA, taking on the Lakers. We have a Q tag on Jonathan Kuminga, which could create a little bit of value if he ends up out, but the highest optimal from the Warriors on DraftKings is Buddy Hield at 7%. He's also the highest owned guy at 7%. No one ranks in the top 30. On FanDuel, you have some guys sneak in. Moses Moody looks like your best value option. He's 13% owned. But Draymond, Steph, and Pajemski are all about 10% owned on FanDuel. As far as I see Golden State, you're either not rostering them or you're rostering very little of them. 5% at best for anything here. You know, I got 6% of Draymond, 8% of Buddy Hield. Maybe you get a little bit more of these guys on FanDuel, but I think you're just sitting in that 5 to 10% range. You're also betting on Jimmy Butler under 5.5 assists, 9 OddsShopper rating, 6% EV. And Draymond under 10.5 points on BetMGM, 3% EV, 3% historical ROI, under 10.5 points. But unfortunately, even in this late night hammer situation, I don't think taking a stand on Golden State is all that appealing. For the Lakers are just Orlando West. You could play Luka and you can play LeBron the same way you play Franz and Paolo, and you don't play anybody else. LeBron ranks 8th. Luka ranks 13th. The next best ranking is Austin Reeves at 82nd. Luka's 20% owned. LeBron's 20% owned. They're both 20% optimal. The Lakers don't get easier. FanDuel's different. Austin Reeves is cheaper. He's 7,900. He ranks 26th. He's 15% optimal, 15% owned. But then it's just the same scenario. 30% ownership to LeBron, 30% optimal. 20% ownership to LeBron or to Luka, 25% optimal. They rank 4th and 9th. It's LeBron and Luka, nothing else. Unless you're on FanDuel, then you can get Reeves. But I also think that LeBron and Luka both look worse than Giannis. We do have Lakers bets. 4.5% EV under 19.5 points on Austin Reeves. 4% EV under 4.5 assists for Austin Reeves. So 2 separate Austin Reeves plays, points and assists. You can grab some unders. But that's the slate, folks. 6 games up, 6 games down. Let's touch on the schedule for the rest of today. I believe I have that. If I don't, I'm going to guess. I do have it. This is very easy. NHL strategy show at 2 o'clock. NBA live before lock at 6. That's all we got today. That's all we've got today. Baseball only has 5 games, but it's 2 games at 1, a game at 4, and 2 games at 7. So like, it's not a real baseball slate. So I think it's time to do what we always do to close out this show. It's time to build a lineup. DraftKings and FanDuel. We need to acquire 60% ROI before we move on. So here we go. We're going to get Kyle Anderson. We're going to get Lonnie Walker. We're going to get Tristan Vukcevic. And I'm going to get Pelle Larsson. Now we could fill out with a little bit more salary. I'm going to get Tyler Hero. I'm going to get Bob Carrington. I'm actually going to try and grab LeBron. And then at utility, anybody 8,300 or less. I'm going to test RJ Barrett. $500 in salary left. This is just a quick glance to see where we're at. Frankie, what did you miss? It's not like you're going to listen anyway. Ah, 55.1. So close. I'm going to get Santi Aldama. And that leaves me 10K at utility. So let's get Paolo Banchero. Let's try that one out. Very different construction. We need 60%, and we're going to get it here. 71-1. $79.7. The Czar hits it on round number 2. Luka, Lonnie Walker, Pelle Larsson, Kyle Anderson, Tristan Vukcevic, Bob Carrington, Santi Aldama, Paolo Banchero. 80% ROI. We move to FanDuel, a job that will be much, much easier. For FanDuel, we get Kyle Anderson, Lonnie Walker, Pelle Larsson. I'm probably going to end up with Giannis. Actually, no. I'm going to get LeBron. I need a point guard. Best value point guard is Bob Carrington. Definitely not going that way. I'll get Jared Butler. What do I want at center? Right now, it looks like it's going to be Ware or Wendell Carter Jr. Let's get Ware. Power forward, let's get... I'm going to get Bam. No, I'm not going to do that because we already have Anderson and Ware, even though I don't think it would matter all that much. I don't want Franz. But I think it has to be Franz. Shooting guard. What happens if I go Shaden Sharp at shooting guard? I'm 8,600 for my final two spots. All right, what happens if I get Tyler Hero and... I mean, it should be Franz. I guess I can go Denny. There we go. We already got this one. 97.4. Dude. It's starting to get ridiculous. 136.8 on FanDuel. I might have to raise the 60% ROI, man. I doubled it again. I seriously build ridiculous FanDuel lineups. 136.8. Jared Butler, Tyler Hero, Pell Larson, Shaden Sharp, Lonnie Walker, LeBron James, Kyle Anderson, Denny Avdia, Khalil Ware. There we go, folks. Another strategy show in the books. Thank you guys for being here. It's been great. We got one more to do tomorrow. What does tomorrow's slate look like? We've got 10 games tomorrow. 3 of them locking at 10 or 10:30. I'm guessing DraftKings kills that. We have a 7-gamer that ends at 8 o'clock. So that's where we're at, folks. Thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Keep your eyes peeled for the contenders. And I will see you guys later.